So as a bonus to the rendering chapter, I wanted to add how to render this same scene using Arnold Render. So although Mantra is a great renderer, sometimes you will be using Arnold in a specific project, and to be fair, Arnold has a very nice volume shader and it can sometimes be a bit faster than Mantra. So let's try to replicate as close as possible what we already did. So I will go to the render view and snapshot this frame. Now I will go back to the scene view, and since I already have Arnold installed, I will right click on the object context and find the Arnold menu. So I will click more to the left just so you can see the entire text. I will look for the Arnold light and create here to the right. Under the perspective view, I will zoom out. Notice how by default the Arnold light will be created as a point light. So I will need to change that. Let's do that now. Change the light type to quad. This would be the equivalent of your area light. And now here's a very useful tip that I really like. You can select your Arnold light and align this light to the ones that we already have. So first of all, let's change the name to Key Light Arnold. Now let's go to the Transform tab, and here under Translate you can click on this button to the right to match a specific object's transforms. So click on the button, then click on the area light, and you'll notice how the Arnold light will jump to that exact position. Now we can do the exact same thing with the rotation of the light. So here under Rotate to the right, click this button to match the rotation to the area light. So this function can be very handy once you're trying to match a specific position or rotation. So again, let's move out. We can now select the Houdini light and disable it. Let's now copy the Arnold light. So you can press Alt, click and drag the light. Let's call this Rim Light Arnold. And this one we will align to the other light here on the bottom left. So again, click Select and Match button, then click on the rim light. And we need to do the same for the rotation. Click on Select and Match, and again click on the area light. So now we have both Arnold lights aligned exactly to our original Houdini lights. So again, make sure to turn off the rim light. We won't need that anymore. And we need also to create an environment light for the Arnold renderer. So let's right click, go to our Arnold menu and select an Arnold light. Let's call this Fill Light Arnold. Make sure to change the light type to Sky Dome. And let's reduce the intensity to 0.25. Now we may need to change the exposure for the area lights, but first of all, let's take a look at our render view. We need to go to our out context, create an Arnold ROP. So let's call this ROP Inc. Arnold. And we need to make sure that we're rendering through the correct camera, which it appears to be the case. Okay, so make sure to change the ROP to Inc. Arnold and click Render. Okay, so even if we have taken care of the lights, we still need to change the shader for this volume. I'm also looking at the Sky Dome, so that's also something I need to change. So let's take care of this first, and then let's change the shader. So go to the scene view, to the object context, select the Arnold light, and under the contribution, look for the camera contribution. You can reduce this to 0. This will make the light invisible to the camera. Now let's go to the material context, and here we will create an Arnold material builder. So let's call this node Material Inc. Arnold. Now let's dive into the Arnold Material Builder. Press Tab and create a standard volume. So you can connect the output of this node, in this case the volume, to the input of the out material node. So right off the bat, let's increase the density. We know we want a very dense volume. And for the scattering color, we will use the volume we created on our simulation. So type CD, that's the color volume. And now let's take a look at the render view and see the result. So click on Render button. And of course, we forgot to assign that material. So let's do that. Select the Material Ink node, copy it, and back to the object context. Dive into the ink node, select the material node, and paste the new material we created. And we might need to update the render. Okay, so now we have our Arnold volume shader working. Let's take care of the lights now. Remember, we increased the exposure of the lights quite a bit. So let's go to our object context. Select the Arnold key light, go to the Light tab, and let's increase the exposure to 3. For now, I will turn on the gradual refinement. And I think we can still increase the exposure a bit. Let's go with 5. And I think this is working nicer. So back to our material. Let's increase the density much more. Let's go with 500 or even 750 just to match what we had in Mantra. Okay, so this is working fine. Let's go to the object context again. Select the rim light and let's increase the exposure to 6. Okay, so it's looking very nice. I think we can still go higher with this one, 6.5. And now let's compare this with the Mantra snapshot. So I think we're getting there. Probably the Mantra light was a bit brighter on the left side. So let's increase the exposure of the rim light. Let's go with 7.5. And let's also increase the key light to 6. And now if we compare the Mantra render and the Arnold render, they are very similar. We're only lacking the depth of field that we used with the Mantra render. So let's take care of that now. I will stop the render.